Amen. Y'all can grab a seat. Hey, thank you guys for leading us tonight. I'm proud of y'all. It is awesome to be led by students, right? Well, hey, I have a quick poll, okay? And this is not to make anybody feel left out or, feel less than. Again, it doesn't matter. I'm just curious. How many of y'all have an iPhone of some kind? Just curious. Okay, awesome. All good. If you don't worry about it. If you don't have any phone, great. Don't get one. You're good. I asked that because I just want to know, right? If you know what I'm talking about. It was within like the last, year or so. It was pretty recent. They added an update where when somebody calls you, you can set the poster, is what it's called, where it's like a wallpaper. You can customize their name, the picture, whatever you want, so that when somebody calls you, it looks a certain way. So, for instance, when Brandon calls me, this is what pops up for me. This is what I get to look at. That's a screenshot, and he calls me, that's what pops up. He's a good-looking guy. It's Dream Weekend. Shout out. Great day, Saturday night, forever, etched in your brains of how you view Brandon. But it could be anybody, right? My wife is customized in here, of course, right? You can set it up for yourself where it's what you want other people to see. But I've noticed something, okay, depending on who calls me, and what that screen looks like, I can feel a big variety of different ways. Do you have this happen where depending on who pops up on your screen, whether it's a call, phone call notification, whatever it is, you have Brand. It's like, why? There he is. He's right there. Yeah, it's real. Real as can be. That's the man. But no matter who it is, right, you have a different feeling. Okay, so Brandon calls, awesome. Let's play laser tag. That's the first thing I think now. It's great. My wife calls, right? I'm excited. I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's talk. I get happy, excited. I'm ready to answer and see what she wants to talk about, what's going on. Maybe you're like me, and for some parts of my life, right, if my parents called, I got nervous. I was like, what did I do? If they're calling me, I might be in trouble, for sure. Maybe it's that friend that you have, and every time they call you or text you, it's only because they need something. You got somebody like that? Yeah, I already got some nods. Yeah. You're like, I don't know if I can handle that right now, if I'm just being honest. I love them, just can't handle that. Here's the last one. Maybe it's your crush. Crush pops up on your phone call, text message. They want to FaceTime? Absolutely not. You might get nervous. Your face is going to get all red. You're going to sweat. You need deodorant. It's okay. Just get that taken care of. But you notice, it's the same notification. It could be a phone call, a text, whatever. But depending on the person, the way you react and respond to it, completely different, right? The emotions that well up and what you do when you see them completely changes based on who that person is and how you think of them, right? Because what goes through your mind? You're expecting them to say a certain thing or do a certain thing or behave a certain way or act a certain way when you talk to them, so you feel that way. But that's one thing when it's a friend or family member calling you, but let's think about this. What comes to mind? What reaction do you have? What feelings come up when it's God? Now, he may not be popping up on a notification in your phone, but when you hear that name of God, when you think about God, when somebody says, hey, you should talk to God or go to God with that, how do you feel? I think there's a variety of answers, okay? If we're honest, there's probably been times in all of our life where we know people that when they hear God, they think distant. They think angry. They think judgmental, rules, disappointed. They go to all these ideas that somebody's told them about or bad examples that they've seen or a tough childhood that they've gone through, whatever it is, and it gets mapped onto who God is and how we think of him and relate to him and react to him. See, so how we think of God changes the way that we respond to him. And the sad reality is when I talk to a lot of people, specifically people that don't want to believe in God, don't want to go to church, don't want a relationship with him, usually what's happening is they're rejecting a God that doesn't exist. They're rejecting a God that they have thought of, that they have formed into an image of their own creation, and that's who they're rejecting. See, so it's really, really important that we understand and know who God really is, what he's really like, because here's the reality. God's not who you think he is. God is who he says he is. And there's a big difference there, and it's really important that we know God for who he says he is and not who we think he is. But the good news is that all throughout history, God has been revealing himself. And we have a whole lot of stories and accounts in this Bible of where God specifically revealed himself in a lot of special ways. And so one of the best stories of that is in Exodus 34. If you have a Bible, turn there with me. We're going to see where God himself is going to give us a description of who he is, what he is like. And it's really important we pay attention to this, because if God is saying it about himself, it's true. It's not coming from our own minds, our emotions, our experiences, what somebody told us, what somebody said online. It's coming from God himself. But let's set the stage a little bit as we get into Exodus 34. Okay, what's going on here? So we're in the book of Exodus. If you don't know what that is, it's called Exodus because it was about God leading his people, the people of Israel, through Moses out of their slavery in Egypt. So as their exodus out of Egypt and toward the promised land, this story that we're going to read is happening in the middle of that journey when they get to a place called Mount Sinai. It was a mountain where God met with Moses, and you may be familiar, it's where he gives him the 10 Commandments. And he begins to give Moses the law that they're to live by in order to be in relationship with him, to worship him, to know him as his people. And so, here's where we're at. Moses is on the mountain meeting with God. God's giving him the 10 Commandments on the stone tablets. And then, you may know the story, Moses goes down, and what does he find the people doing? They're worshiping a golden calf, an idol of their own creation. They've been surrounded by idolatry and false worship for so long, it's just ingrained in them, and so they begin to worship a false idol instead of the one true God who's been leading them out of slavery that whole time. And God had every right to destroy his people there, but Moses says, God, please forgive them, save them, spare them. And he does. And in that moment, we see Moses cry out. He says, if I've found favor with you, please teach me your ways. Reveal yourself to me. Show me your glory. And the craziest part is that God says, yes, okay, I will. But there's some conditions, right? God tells him, hey, I'm going to pass by you, but I'm going to cover your face, because if you see my face, you'll die. That's how holy and glorious our God is, that we can't even see him face to face without dying in our humanity right now. And so he says, once I pass by you, I'll remove my hand, you can see the back of me as I pass by you, okay? And this is what happens in the midst of that, right after he says, hey, I'm gonna show you myself, our God who wants to reveal himself to people. He's not hidden, he's not trying to make it difficult to know who he is. He's willing to show up and reveal himself. Moses is in this moment, and this is what we see God say. He doesn't just show his power or his presence, he reveals his character here. So pay attention closely. Exodus 34, starting in verse 5. The Lord came down in a cloud, stood with him there, and proclaimed his name, the Lord. The Lord passed in front of him and proclaimed, the Lord is a compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger and abounding in faithful love and truth, maintaining faithful love to 1,000 generations, forgiving iniquity, rebellion, and sin, but he will not leave the guilty unpunished, bringing the father's iniquity on the children and grandchildren to the 3rd and 4th generations. Throughout this series, over the next few weeks, we're going to unpack all those verses, the different things you see there, the words, the questions you may have. We will get to them, but we're starting right off the bat, and I want to first point out all the things that are not about Moses. The Lord came down. The Lord passed in front of him. The Lord proclaimed. He proclaims his own name twice. It has nothing to do with Moses' abilities or his understanding or his worthiness. It's God acting and choosing to reveal himself and draw close. God moves toward humanity and reveals himself in his own words and on his own terms. But catch that, God moves toward us. Not away from us. He's not far off. He moves toward us. And that concept is part of understanding the first 2 words that God uses to describe himself, compassionate and gracious. Okay, let's start with the first one. First, we see God use this word compassionate, and it's really an interesting word. I know you all came here and you're like, I want to study Hebrew tonight. That's what you're going to do for just a second. That Hebrew word for compassion actually comes from a root word that means a mother's womb, like where a baby grows and develops until it's ready to be born. Why? Why is that word connected? Why would God use that? It's because he's painting this picture that our God, first and foremost, tenderly, lovingly cares for his people. This is really interesting, right? Because all throughout the Bible, God is not a gendered being. He is a spiritual being, He doesn't have a gender like you and I do, but when he does get talked about, even Jesus introduces him with masculine words. He's our Father. This has nothing to do with gender. It's just saying, hey, picture a mother with her newborn. If you've ever been there, we're going through that for round 3 in our household right now with Evie. 7 weeks old right now, so I was seeing it firsthand again, which is awesome. But if Evie, our little newborn, starts crying, and she can cry, okay? She can scream her head off. It's crazy for such a tiny little creature. If she's screaming, you're going to see 2 things happen if Jenna and I are in the room, okay? I'm going to kind of look over at her and be like, wow, girl, you got to chill. Like, that is literally what's probably going to come out of my mouth first. I'm going to say, she needs to chill. And I'll probably wait and watch for a second and be like, maybe she'll calm down. Maybe she'll chill. Give it a couple minutes. Okay, I'll get her. Like, I have no problem. I'm going to go get her. I love to comfort her, hold her, all of that. But like, hey, like, we'll watch and see what happens first a little bit. Jenna, immediately, her first instinct is, I need to hold her. I've got to grab her. I've got to bring her in close and comfort her and console her and make sure she knows I'm right here and she's loved and taken care of. That's the picture of compassion that's coming from that word in the Hebrew. It's a mother's tender, loving care for her baby. And God chooses this word to teach us that God cares deeply about you and comes close to you. He isn't far off or distant. He doesn't move away from you when things get difficult or ugly. No, he meets you right in the middle of your mess and in your pain and in your brokenness and in your sin. God draws close and cares for you. Time after time, the gospel writers use this word, compassion, in the Greek to talk about how Jesus reacts to people around him. He shows compassion. He has compassion for crowds that are pressing in on him, people that are coming just because they want something from him, people who are carrying diseases, people who are broken, people who are sinful, people who are outcasted in society because of the lives of sin they were living in. He had compassion on over and over and over again. What does that show us? It's a God who cares about and draws close to those who are broken. God sees your sin, your brokenness, your desperation, and he is moved by that compassion toward you, not away from you. That's the first thing we see in this word, compassion, the loving, tender care of God. But next he says gracious, and these 2 words work together in a really cool way, where compassion talks about the way God feels towards us. Graciousness talks about his action towards us. So he sees us in that, and he feels overwhelmed by this desire to care for us and be close to us. But in his grace, he then comes in and meets the needs that we have. God meets you in your need and gives you more than you deserve. That's the idea of grace. In its simplest form, grace just means a gift we don't deserve. And so we just see this loving, tender, caring God sees his people. He's motivated to go close to him. And then in his grace, he's then willing to give of himself. And this is interesting, right? Because I think back to a time in my life when I was fresh out of college and I had nothing, right? Like, I had served voluntarily in a student ministry for 3 years without getting paid, doing a lot. And I graduated, moved back to my hometown in Tampa, and was like, I got to find a job. I was trying to get ready to marry Jenna. Like, it had to happen, right? But problem, I didn't have anything. I didn't have a car. I didn't have money. So thankfully, my parents took care of me. They brought me in. They let me stay back at home for a little bit, and I could borrow their cars. But problem, the second I got a job, I needed a car because they both worked. And so I'm like, what am I going to do? And my whole family, my grandma, my grandfather, my aunt and uncle, and my parents all chipped in to get me a car. And that may be simple. That may be something that you've been through, maybe something that you'll never experience. But for me in that moment, what I felt was this overwhelming gratitude because I had nothing to give. I had no way of earning that. I had no reason that they had to give me that other than that they saw me, they cared about me, and they wanted to provide for me out of their love. That's this picture of this word grace that is used by God to describe himself. We have literally nothing to offer God. He needs nothing. So it's not like we have anything to contribute. Even our best is worthless before him. And yet he moves towards us and he gives generously, more than we even need. God, he doesn't just do this, to be really clear, when we have it all together. Have you ever found yourself tempted to believe that? Like, hey, I've had a really good time this week in my quiet times. I've prayed really hard for this, or I've just not been walking in that sin for long enough. Now, like, of course God would want to be close to me. Of course he's going to speak to me. Of course he's going to give. Like, it's easy to fall for this lie, but here it is. Who you are and what you do does not change who God is. Doesn't change who God is. He is who he is, regardless of who you are or what you do, how you're living, how you're struggling, how you're doing great. He is who he is. It's literally this divine name of Yahweh that he gives to Moses when Moses first asked him, who should I say is sending me to call your people out of Egypt? He says, I am who I am. God is God. Doesn't depend on the circumstances. It doesn't depend on the season. It doesn't depend on you or me or anything we have to offer. Who you are and what you do doesn't change who God is. He is unchanging. In theology, it's this word called immutable, immutability of God. It's just that he never changes. And that's a good thing, because what it means is when he says, I'm compassionate and gracious, he always is. He forever is. He will never not be those things. So what does this mean for us today? Well, how we view a person determines how we respond to them. How you view God determines how you will respond and relate to him. So, some of us tend to run away from God, especially when things aren't going well. We feel fear, we feel shame, we feel regret, we feel dirty, we feel unworthy, and we think that God doesn't want us to come to him. He wouldn't want to be with us. He wouldn't want to hear from us. He wouldn't want anything to do with us in that moment. And here's the thing. Like I said, who you are and what you do does not change who God is. So don't view God based off of assumptions, bad ideas, lies, bad examples from this world. View him based on who he says he is. He said he's compassionate. He said he's gracious. So that means whether life's going good or bad, you can go to him. He'll welcome you in with loving, tender, caring arms. He'll give generously because that is who he is. God moves toward broken people, not away from them. He loves you. Maybe you just need to hear that. He, the God of the universe who created heavens and the earth, loves you. In your mess, in your sin, in your brokenness, in your ugliness, in your failures and flaws and mess, he loves you. Because that is who he is. And if you ever forget that, if you're ever like, there's just no way, you don't get what I've done, you don't know what I've been through, you don't understand how bad it actually is, he can't want anything to do with me. Just look back to the cross. We're in the middle of Holy Week. Like, it's the time set apart every year where we as Christians remember and celebrate what happened there. And what happened there was God seeing broken humanity, knowing that we were hopeless and lost and had nothing to offer but our sin that was deserving of death. And what did he do? He didn't step away. He stepped in. He stepped into this world, into your mess, into your brokenness, into your sin. He took it upon himself on the cross, and he died for you. He died for all of humanity. And he rose from the dead to conquer sin, death, and hell forever, to offer us salvation and new life. That's the God that we serve. That's the God that we get to know. It's the God who is compassionate and gracious, who moves toward us, not away from us. And it has nothing to do with who you are, what you have to offer. Because Jesus didn't come for cleaned up people. He came for broken people. So, this week, what if you didn't hide from God? What if you didn't hide a single area of your life from him? What if you brought it all to him? What if you brought your sin, your shame, your lust, your addiction, your anger, your pride, your greed, whatever it may be, what if you brought it to him? And God actually showed up as the compassionate and gracious God that he says he is. That's the God that you're going to meet when you bring it to him and you don't hide from him. He's moving towards you, so bring it all to him. This is who God is. Not who you thought he is, but who he says he is. Would you bow your heads with me? Let's respond to this together tonight. Just bow your heads, close your eyes for just a minute, okay? Tonight, just ask God to show you, just to really reveal to you who he is. One of the most transformative moments in my walk with Christ was when I realized that even in the midst of committing my sin, I could stop and pray to God, and he didn't walk away from me. He would meet me right there, and he loved me right there, and he wanted me right there. So ask God to just show you right now who he really is. Ask him to show you any wrong assumptions or beliefs you've been holding on to, and maybe you just need to confess something to him tonight and stop hiding it from him. He already knows you, and he loves you. Ask him to show you anything wrong with how you view him, any way you're hiding from him, and take a step towards him. And tonight, maybe you're here and you've never actually put your faith in Jesus to save you from your sins. Maybe you've never thought of God in this way, as compassionate and gracious, that he actually loves you, but he does. Hear me, he loves you. And he wants a relationship with you, and if you'll turn from your sins and believe that he really sent Jesus, his one and only son, to die in your place and to raise from the dead so that you could be saved, and turn from your sins and follow him, you can be saved tonight.